Hey, welcome to day 246. We are in 1 Chronicles and Daniel 4 and Ezekiel 40. Not a lot to talk about. I mean, yesterday we didn't do a video because it was just chronological order stuff of the genealogical record of the people in Jerusalem and the exiles, and where the people that were accounted for genealogically. And there are some other things we could have talked about in there, but with what we're doing this year, I didn't think it was necessary to do a video on that. Now, there's something cool in here that we should talk about. Nebuchadnezzar's dream in Daniel 4, so hopefully you read that. And it was all about Nebuchadnezzar saying, hey, look at all this. Look at what I have built and accomplished. And the boasting of King Nebuchadnezzar. And then he has a dream, and Daniel says, oh, I wish it happened to your enemies and not you. Which is strange. You know, Daniel's in exile. He's held captive. And, you know, he's the king has been put in charge of his people. So from a God point of view, that's what God did. So Daniel's accepting what God has done in their lives, and this is the king. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. As long as it doesn't go against what I believe, then I will serve the king the best way I can. So that's kind of how that thought process goes through when you're reading some of these things, and how can they be like this? But the dream is he's taken away from his power is taken away only for a moment of 7 years. And it says 7 periods of time. And it's mentioned, let's see, Daniel 4, 16, 23, 25, and 32. If you read it, you'll see all those. You can circle them. Pretty cool that it's mentioned that many times. And the whole point is to say, hey, 7 years, this is definite. It's definitely going to happen. Versus saying Babylon has fallen. That's a little different way of saying something. So this is just a repetition of saying 7 years. First, he tells the dream. Then he tells it to Daniel. Daniel repeats the dream to him. And then the explanation of the dream. And so it's said 3 or 4 times there. Not the same thing as Babylon has fallen, which means Babylon falls once and then it falls again later on in the future. So definitely a different thing. Just wanting to explain those types of things and the logic behind those things. And we all know that a time means 1 year. So a 7 periods of time means 7 years. Which when we get to Daniel 9, which isn't for a while, but when we get to Daniel 9, that's important to note. And we've talked about this 2 or 3 other times throughout the beginning of the Bible. So here's my question of why I'm bringing up the dream, because it is just a random dream. It's about King Nebuchadnezzar. Whoop-de-doo, right? Well, he wasn't that great of a guy, but God humbled him. So let's see. Let me just start at verse 33 and I'll read up through 34. So that same hour the judgment was fulfilled, and Nebuchadnezzar was driven from human society. He ate grass like a cow, and he was drenched with the dew of heaven. He lived this way until his hair was as long as eagle's feathers, and his nails were like birds' claws. After this time had passed, I, Nebuchadnezzar, looked up to heaven. My sanity returned, and I praised and worshipped the Most High and honored the one who lives forever. His rule is everlasting, and his kingdom is eternal. Verse 35, all the people of the earth are nothing compared to him. He does as he pleases among the angels of heaven and among the people of the earth. No one can stop him or say to him, what do you mean by doing these things? Okay, so at this point, Nebuchadnezzar totally humbled, not even humiliated. He may have been humiliated when he was coming out of this, but nothing says that he was humiliated. He was just humbled and understood who God was and is. Okay, I'm saving something here, but I want to point out there's definition between God, the angels, and humans. Stop saying that when we die, we become angels. Stop doing that. There's nothing in here that says we become angels. And there's a definite difference in Revelation of the angels singing and the people who have been saved singing, if the angels are singing really at all. So that's another debate that's out there. But I want to point that out. It's important to talk about these things as we read them. Okay, so then the next thing is 36 and 37. It's important that I read this part, these things to you. When my sanity returned to me, so did my honor and glory. So God gave him back his kingdom, his honor, and his glory. My advisors and nobles sought me out, and I was restored as the head of my kingdom with even greater honor than before. So even though Nebuchadnezzar did horrible things, God had a plan for him, and he chose him, and he humbled him, and all of a sudden now he has a new heart. Verse 37, now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and glorify and honor the King of heaven. All his acts are just and true, and he is able to humble the proud. Okay, here's the question and why I've taken my time on this. Is King Nebuchadnezzar going to be in heaven? I don't know. If you're wanting me to respond to that, I don't know. Because this is in the Old Testament, and you just don't know. When we get to Revelation, I'm going to mention all the people from the Old Testament before Christ, where they're at, where they might be, where are we going to see some of these people in heaven because they didn't have Jesus to save them. Of course, God made a way for these people, but we're going to talk about that later on. But my question is, if he was humbled at that point, had a change of heart, and he's glorifying God, does that mean he's forgiven and he's going to be in heaven? Wouldn't that be a crazy thing to be in heaven and Nebuchadnezzar standing beside you and you're like, okay, what's up with you? That's what I want to know. All right, we're almost done. The last thing, there's more sevens. So we have lots of sevens in this reading. You went to Ezekiel 40, and I want to read verse 3 first. So Daniel, in a vision from God, he took me to the land of Israel and set me down on a very high mountain. From there I could see toward the south what appeared to be a city. So that's verse 2. As he brought me nearer, I saw a man whose face shone like bronze standing beside a gateway entrance. He was holding in his hand a linen measuring cord and a measuring rod. Okay, and then he measures the temple and stuff. And there's a couple different places in the Bible where we have the measurements, which in the beginning, in here, and I think in Revelation somewhere we start to see those things again, so or close to that. That's not what I wanted to say. The point is that 7 is mentioned again. So we go to verse 22. The windows, the entry room, and the palm tree decorations were identical to those in the east gateway. There were 7 steps leading up to the gateway entrance. Okay, this is in the east gateway. 7 steps. You go to verse 26. And here it is. South gateway. So you have the east and you have the south gateway. Also had a stairway of 7 steps leading up to it and an entry room at the inner end and palm tree decorations along the dividing walls. So you would think in the north and the west, the north gateway and the south gateway have 7 steps. The east and the west gateway have 8. So that was an interesting read. I don't have any reason for why that is. I just wanted to point out that there were 7 steps. But the whole point, not that it's not important, is that there are so many 7s. Remember, we're making a list. There are so many 7s. Why are there so many 7s? I don't think there's anything major to it other than it just seems very odd there are so many 7s. And some 7s may be more important than others. And I just wanted to point that out to you. Until we are done with the whole Bible, we need to make sure we record all of these 7s so that we can kind of look at it and say, okay, what's special about this? And there may be something special about the north and the south gateway. So that's your day 246. I'll see you tomorrow.